Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the World of Momos podcast. And on this episode of Reflections Reactions, we have a very special guest with us. We have Ben Habib with us, and we are going to talk with Ben Habib a bit different topic, and not about like the current politics or anything, because that's what everyone else is doing. And so we're going to talk to him about a bit about Pakistan, his initial experiences when he was born, and blah blah stuff like that, what he thinks about the current state of Pakistan, how we see our future relationship with the country, because we are not like in isolationist or something. We need to have relationships with countries, positive or negative, wherever they might be. So what do we see that happening? So hi there, Ben. How are you?
Hi, Momus. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for coming on. It's a great honor to have you on. Really, real privilege. Really wanted to talk to you for a while.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and
nice to
we
talk to you.
at the before recording we started talking about it, and I didn't even want you to record. I was like, no, it's okay. I just want to talk to Ben. So I mean, let's get into the topic of Pakistan. So talk to me about your initial experiences, because I've also heard like stories from my uncles and my dad, and like about the earlier Pakistan and how good it was, even though you were born in I think so you were born in the era where it was martial law, and General Ayub Khan was the president, de facto president of Pakistan, wasn't it?
He was. Ayub Khan was president when I was born, which was in 1965, 18 years after partition. I was born 17 years and 9 months after partition,
Mm,
after Pakistan was created. And even though when I was a young boy, that seemed like a long time after partition, actually, when I
mm,
look back at it now, it was really in the very early years of Pakistan's existence that I was born. And notwithstanding the fact that it was martial law,
mm,
it was a phenomenal country. My memories as a child were of a country with big avenues, um, tree lined avenues, cl- clubs left by the British, the Boat Club, the Gymkhana, you'll know these names,
yeah.
the Sin Club. The school I went to was the Karachi Grammar School, which was also set up by, um, uh, I think, a British regiment when it was in Pakistan. The Sin Club was a Scottish regiment.
Mm,
Um, and so I and my mum's English.
mm,
And so I had a very anglicized upbringing
mm,
in Pakistan. And my memories of early Pakistan, I left at the age of 13 and a bit. My memories of that early part of Pakistan were really one of what I would define now as post-imperial, immediately post-colonial Pakistan, very much still in the guise of what it would have been like under British rule
yeah.
pre 1947. And my experience now of Pakistan is of a country that's dramatically different to what it was then. So, Ayub Khan, the president of Pakistan at the time, had been to Sandhurst. He was trained in Sandhurst, and I think a number of other generals, Pakistani generals of the time, and senior officers had been trained at Sandhurst, as indeed had members of the Indian
Mm,
army been trained at Sandhurst. And there was a kind of even though they kept having little wars with each other, there was a kind of camaraderie between the officers on the Indian side and the Pakistani side. I only mentioned this because you mentioned Ayub Khan,
yeah,
and I digressing completely. But
that's fine.
I then I came to rugby in 1979, and I did O level history. Obviously, is one of my subjects at rugby, and the project that we all had to do an individual project. For our history O level in order to get past our history O level. And the project I did was on the 1971 war between Pakistan and India. And I've got tape recordings still of the people that I interviewed. And the officers whom I interviewed, almost all of them told me that they had friends in the Indian army
Yeah.
and that they were corresponding with their friends in the Indian army as they fought out this war. I mean, it was quite an extraordinary thing, two countries at war, but basically people of the same ilk on the other side. And yeah, so it was a kind of, I suppose, really peculiar period
Mm.
in the subcontinent's history, immediately post-colonial, with the tailwinds of the British Empire still firmly running through it. So even though Pakistan had been created, really not much had changed in the way that it was functioning from its British era. Everything changed in Pakistan after I left. Towards the tail end of my time in
Mm.
Pakistan, things began to change. And then they changed quite dramatically in the 1980s after I'd already left the country.
Yeah.
So Pakistan, as I've mentioned, earlier in this,
What
in
year
my
did you
yeah,
leave Pakistan?
1979.
Oh, so that's when General Ziaul Haq came in,
Yeah, so he came in
around that time.
1977.
Oh,
He
that's
came
when
in.
Bhutto was there, right? Like Bhutto was the prime minister, or
So democracy didn't suit Pakistan
no?
well. And the first genuinely democratic elections took place in 1971,
Mm.
Momus, as you might know. And the outright winner of the general election in Pakistan in 1971 was a chap called Mujibur Rahman, who was
Yeah.
an East Pakistani from Bangladesh,
Mm.
basically, what is now Bangladesh,
Yeah.
East Pakistan. And West Pakistan wouldn't recognize and accept an East Pakistani prime minister. And so they ran the election again. And this time, Bhutto, I think they ran the election again. My memory may be mistaken. In any event, Bhutto, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, that's Benazir Bhutto's father, became prime minister one way or another. And it was, I think, as a result of the rejection of the democratic mandate that East Pakistan then effectively rebelled against West
Mm.
Pakistan, and the war with India was kicked off because India supported East Pakistan, or the rebels in East Pakistan, in the war against West Pakistan. And Bhutto came into being as the first democratically elected prime minister, at least of West Pakistan, which is now known as
Mm.
Pakistan. And he did what I suppose any democratic country would do if it's brought into democracy too quickly. If it doesn't evolve into democracy, but it has a kind of a birth by fire, baptism by
Mm.
fire, which is what the creation of democracy in Pakistan was. And what he did was appeal to the poorest component of Pakistani populace, which is obviously the majority, and he did that in two ways. One, by promising them meals. I think he called them dukan, double roti, and something
Kapli
else, which
Rota
is
Makan, I think so. Kapli
that's it.
Rota
That's it.
Makan.
Yes, that you remember it.
Yeah.
So that's food,
Clothing and housing.
clothing, and a house. But the other thing that he invoked, and this was the beginning of the destruction of that peaceable post-imperial uh, construct, was the other thing he invoked was Islam.
Mm.
In order to garner support from the masses, he basically started the Islamification of Pakistan.
Mm.
It was always the Islamic Republic of Pakistan,
Yeah.
but until then, Islam had been kept in people's pockets. It
Mm.
was a private religion in many ways, in the way that Christianity is a private religion in the West.
Mm.
But he started making it front line, and he started currying favor with with the
Yeah.
mullahs and so on in Pakistan. Madrasas sprung up.
Similar to what Imran Khan was doing in the
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's what I call the lowest common
Yeah.
denominator in certainly in Pakistani politics,
Mm.
because you're appealing to an aspect which the people of Pakistan, being Muslims, have no ability to reject.
Yeah.
And they therefore give you their vote because they feel obliged to do it, because it's their
Mm.
religious obligation to do
Yeah.
it, because you're invoking Islam.
Mm.
But as a government, they then ended up going down this inexorable march towards Islamification,
Yeah.
as I mentioned.
Yeah.
And and in the pursuit of Islamification, he promoted General Ziaul Haq
Mm.
into being head of the army. And General Ziaul Haq was uh,
Who ended up
uh,
becoming his noose. So
ended up becoming his noose. And General Ziaul Haq was a fundamentalist
mhm.
Muslim, completely not of the mold of Ayub Khan, who was
Yeah.
educated at Sandhurst, and the other officers. He was quite the opposite sort of general, the first homegrown general, if
Yeah.
you like,
The
in
guy who
Pakistan.
squashed Palestinians, who fought for Jordan. He was a general at that times as well, like who fought for Jordan. and repel the forces of Arafat, the forces of PLO, because he was so anti-Marxism and socialism.
Yeah. But he was also anti Bhutto's
Oh,
drinking.
yeah,
And Bhutto had invoked Islam, but Bhutto was far from being a good Muslim. And, he irritated a lot of the Muslims who had now been promoted into fundamentalist Muslims who had been promoted into high office. And as you touched on it, Momus, Ziaul Haq turned on Bhutto. Had him, there was a coup. It was a semi-violent coup. Bhutto survived the coup, but he was then put on trial. It was basically a
a
show
show trial.
trial.
Yeah.
The school, Karachi Grammar School, where my sister, my brother, and I were being educated, was closed for 9 months while there were, curfews and the army was on the streets and so on. And my mother, who was English, was extremely concerned for our safety, but also for our education. And so we were all sent away to boarding school in 78, 1978. The decision was made to send my sister and my brother and me to boarding school, and then we were sent to boarding school in the UK. And I remember actually on my last day in Pakistan, my last day ever living in Pakistan was the 9th of April, 1979. And if I haven't got my dates wrong, because I heard it on the radio that morning, it was the morning Bhutto was hanged.
Mm,
And it was really the end, in my mind, that day for me, symbolically, because I left the country and it was
yeah.
the day Bhutto was hanged. It was the end of liberal Western values in
Oh, yeah.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
And Pakistan, ever since then, has become increasingly more,
Yeah.
Islamic in the way that it's been governed. And
Mm,
Islam itself, as you know, Momus, has evolved into
yeah.
being much more fundamentalist
Yeah.
than it was in the early 60s and
Yeah.
70s.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone back to its roots, to be honest, being more fundamentalist and stuff. And I think so. I mean, for me, we were talking about this, why sometimes I have some rather spicy views about against Pakistan, and I call it a fake state, and why it should just belong to India. I mean, the reason I think so is, apart from just trying to be controversial, is I think that the basis of Pakistan is why they made the country is what lends it to its failures in a way, because they wanted a place for the Muslims, right? So they already put it on a path of ideological path, right? And then it is like sort of like a crossroads between Islam and democracy, then, because there's no democracy in Islam. So if they did really accept, took out the republic part of it and made it an Islamic kingdom of Pakistan, it might actually function better, even though it might not be something that the Western mind would like comprehend or would want or accept it. But if you can see places like Dubai and Saudi Arabia, the reason why they work better is because they're working in an Islamic way of life, right? So they
And they
actually,
understand
yeah,
fundamentalist Islam.
exactly, and they're not in
Yeah.
conflict with it, right? So this is the issues that I have. I don't know what do you think about this. So Islam, like whenever someone wants to come into power in Pakistan, they invoke either of those two ideologies or two at the same time, either communism or Islam, right? Or it's different forms of communism, socialism, Marxism, whatever, right? Because that's what Bhutto started to do as well. Roti Kapra Makan, that was basically a socialist cry, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
at the start as well, Allama Iqbal, the guy who dreamt about Pakistan, he famously said about Karl Marx that Karl Marx was a prophet with a book, but no prophethood. Right. So there were two ideas that they were already flirting with: communism and Islam. And every time someone has to come into power or wants to come in more into power, they invoke one of these two ideologies. And that's why they always like things happen. When I was in Pakistan in Karachi, I lived there for like 9.5 years. Most of that time was actually really peaceful because that was under General Musharraf, his martial law. And I think so after the death of Bhutto, that was probably the only good period of Pakistan.
What were the years,
Um,
Momus?
from between 2000 till 2010, but Musharraf went a
Right.
bit before that. So it wasn't like all of his time, but like between 2000 to 2010, I was in Pakistan. And
Yeah, and I think
also,
Benazir Bhutto was assassinated in '07, wasn't
yes,
she?
yes, and I
Yeah.
remember that day I was with my friend on the road, and we had to basically run, because like all the cars and
Yeah.
everything were like destroyed on the road and stuff. We just missed the havoc by a minute. So it was,
Yeah.
I could see the contrast, right? Like when I came to Pakistan, it was rather peaceful because General Musharraf was there. And the not there at that time, I think so, after whatever time he came afterwards. But the muggings really stopped in Karachi. Like it was becoming
Did
like
they? Yeah.
peaceful. You could go out at night and stuff without fearing for everything. And then everything turned once he attacked Lal Masjid, because they were Islamist and stuff over there. The whole country turned
In
against him.
Lahore. Was that
Yeah,
Lahore? Islamabad.
Islamabad, somewhere.
Islamabad.
Yeah, somewhere
Islamabad. Yeah.
Faisalabad or Islamabad,
They
somewhere.
shot everyone and they shot everyone, didn't
Yeah,
they?
exactly. And
Yeah.
he did the right thing.
Yeah.
He had to deal with the Islamists. But
It-
once they took
yeah.
him out, it just went. And I kept on thinking, like, you know what? Democracy really doesn't work in Pakistan. You need a good king over there or
No.
something.
I mean, you make a very powerful point. Democracy is the preserve of a very advanced, developed nation. It needs a number of things in place to work. It needs economic prosperity for it to work. You can't have democracy in a country where there's massive wealth divide.
Mm,
It just doesn't work. And you need state and religion to understand that there needs to be some kind of distance between the
mm,
two. Now, I'm very in favor of reacquainting ourselves in the United Kingdom with our Christian
mm,
constitutional roots, our Christian constitution, which we are a Christian country from a constitutional perspective, and our Christian cultural roots.
mm.
But that doesn't mean that we become a state run by Christianity. There has to be a
Yeah,
separation.
yeah,
And Pakistan is, like so many Muslim countries, has found it impossible to have a separation. And it's partly, I think, Momus, you'd agree, that Islam seeks to be much more
yeah.
than a religion.
It is more than a
It's an
religion. Yeah,
ideology. It's much more than a
mm,
religion. It's a legal system. It's a political
yeah.
system. It's a way of life.
Hmm.
It is all consuming.
Hmm.
It dictates every aspect of the way you behave
Hmm.
if you wish to take it to the nth degree. And so it has the propensity, and you indicated this earlier, it has the propensity to always go back to being
Hmm.
fundamentalist. And people in the United Kingdom don't appreciate this.
No.
Many people on the political field talk about extremist Islam. Of course, extremism is a problem. Extremism of any form is a problem. But with Islam, it's fundamentalism.
Mm,
It's more fundamentally important to
mm.
recognize because it tends back to fundamentalism. And enlightened periods are short lived and only come when you've got basic, either complete grip with of a a complete strong arm
Yeah.
of the state
Mm,
controlling Islam, which is not democratic,
yeah.
which is what you were saying as well. It doesn't
Mm,
go. Or you've got a very peculiar balance between economic prosperity and Islam not influencing governance too much. And we had that in Turkey for many, many
mm.
years. Turkey worked extremely well. Turkey, sadly, is now falling in my
Yeah.
mind. Economically, it's becoming a bit of a basket case, but also the form of governance that the
Yeah.
Ataturk had established has given way to Islamic
And
governance.
there's a
And so
correlation there. I think so. That, this is what people don't see, the correlation there. It's like Islam only works when there's prosperity, economical prosperity, and stuff like that. Because Islam itself is a very materialistic religion. It really it garners people towards the materialistic and not towards the spiritual. So when there's a lot of prosperity and there's a lot of economical abundance and stuff, people are fine, right? Because people don't really have to pray to Allah or anything. They have what they want, like,
they're relaxed. They're
they're relaxed.
subdued by
Exactly.
economic
They
prosperity.
have
Yeah.
more to lose and stuff, so they're fine. And you can track that by each country's downfall, upward and a downward trajectory as well. Turkey, when it was economically prosperous, or not just economically prosperous, but when it had prospect of being economically prosperous, people were more busy, getting busy, right? Like trying to get money, trying to
Absolutely.
get the own and stuff. When it's gone down, they're like, okay, Islam, Muslim Brotherhood and stuff like that. We will take over the whole West, blah blah. This
Yeah,
happens.
it's a kind of victimhood that's being
Mm,
invoked as
mm,
well. You know,
yeah,
we've had the West's knee on our neck. We need to do X,
mm,
Y, and Z. We need to
yeah,
reconnect with our roots, reconnect with our religion, and they get salvation out of their religion. It's a very ancient way of garnering mass support.
yeah,
You know, I think Marx, going back to Marx,
yeah,
Marx said religion is the opium of the
yeah.
masses, and
He
you know, so
created his own religion then.
yeah, yeah.
It's pretty much so, isn't it? Like, and this is why, for me as an ex-Muslim, as a former Muslim as well, this is a very stark sort of a thing when it happens, and when people say, "Oh yeah, look at Dubai and Saudi Arabia, aren't they doing amazing?" Like, if all of Islam was like that, I was like, well, that's
But
a
they've got a
temporary. Yeah, but
iron grip.
yeah, they're authoritarian. Like, we don't
Yeah,
like people, because when people say, why can't we have what Dubai has over here? Yeah, because we are Western liberal democracy. We don't want authoritarianism. Like, if we have Keir Starmer's digital IDs and a bit more robust, like, authoritarianism, we'll solve Islamic, but at what cost? Right, at the cost of our
yeah.
own identity over here, right?
And that's what's going to happen.
Hmm.
You know, I see many people calling for more draconian policing, more draconian punishments.
Hmm.
And effectively, the reaction that we're getting in this country to the breakdown of our culture and multiculturalism and the more threatening elements from, frankly, people from North Africa, Middle East, and so on. The reaction to that is to become more authoritarian. The people are asking for
Hmm.
more authoritarianism, and people have got to be very careful for what they ask
Hmm.
for, because if you give the government, like this absolutely wretched Labour government, more authority
Hmm.
in the hope that they will use it with use it wisely to bring the country to peace, forget it. It's going to go wrong. What we need to do is find our way back to where we were
Hmm.
before the need for greater authority became required.
Yeah. And in the process, if we have to think about, okay, which are the elements over here, which in a way that some of it we're trying to discuss over here as well, right? Because I think so the Pakistani elements within Britain are an issue, because we don't, like, it's just not to say all of Pakistanis have an issue and stuff. That would be me admitting that I have an issue then. But it's this type of Pakistanis that we are having
Well,
over
this is a
here.
point. This is a point I've made repeatedly on
Mm,
podcasts, and if you were to take into this country the educated Pakistani
mm,
classes, of which there are many, who've been to school, been to university, many of whom been to Western universities, they're an entirely different
mm,
kind of individual to the type that come from Mirpur
yeah,
or from the depths of Punjab
yeah.
or Kashmir.
Mm,
And um, and what we've done in this country is take in people who, frankly, wouldn't be accepted into polite society in Karachi.
yeah,
We've taken them
very
in
good point.
in large numbers into
Yeah,
the UK, thinking, well, on the basis of everyone's equal in human rights, everyone's equal,
yeah.
we'll assimilate, or their culture will be fine in our culture. No, we're taking on barbarians into our
Mhm.
country, and if you take barbarians into your country, expect barbaric behavior.
Mm.
You know,
And this is such a good point, because this is what I try telling people all the time as well. Like, these people who we are importing over here won't even assimilate into the metropolitan cities of Pakistan. They can't. Like, they're
no,
looked down upon because they behave like barbarians over there as well, and they dealt with in the cities they dealt with, but in the villages, outer villages and stuff, where they have their sort of kingdom, they have prosperity of their sorts over there, and but we can't just have anyone coming over here. That's not just for Pakistan,
no.
every other country. And I feel like the topic of immigration is very important, and but not in isolation, because most of the time people talk about it in isolation. The problem is we can't start fixing the country and maintain the national identity of Britain unless we get rid of these elements first. Because
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it's not just Pakistani
mm,
elements, North African, Middle Eastern, and even, there's a natural inclination to look at Hindus and think, well, actually, Hindus, they're the opposite of Islam, so they're kind of all right.
yeah,
But that Hinduism is also can be very
Very much.
belligerent, can
Yeah.
be, so we have to be very careful of any culture
Hmm.
that isn't effectively British culture. And I can define British culture.
Hmm.
People often say, well, define British culture.
Yeah.
What does it mean to being
Yeah.
British? Well, I've got a pretty clear understanding in my own mind of what it means to be
Hmm.
British. And, the elements that we've taken in large numbers into this country are not British.
Yeah.
They're not of our cultural heritage.
Yeah. And I think so. That's another very good point that you've raised about that as well. Like, it's not, as an ex-Muslim, people expect me to be just be belligerent towards Islam, right? And not talk about other religions as well. Like, even when it comes to Christianity, I do, I do go to church and everything, and my wife is Catholic Polish, so there's lots of sympathy towards Christianity, but I also do not want to change Allahu Akbar for Christ Hu Akbar, right? So I don't want to
No,
change
we
one
don't
thing.
want we don't want fundamentalism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of it
Yeah.
is a lot of the immigration topic as well. I'm not concentrating on Pakistan, Bangladesh, Somalia, and those places as well. It's India as well, South India as well, right? So what the Boris wave has done, I've seen in Essex throughout. I've never seen this many Indians. You know, in my life, I haven't seen this many Indians. The whole of Essex seems like it's
Yeah.
filled with South Indians. Like, how did this happen? Within 5 years, swelled up. We don't, because anything like that changes the national identity, the regional identity,
Absolutely.
not even national, regional identity. So it might be that in some parts of well-off England, where Liberal Democrats live, it's all English, right? And they might have one or two foreigner who is westernized anyways, and they feel like that is the example of immigration, as if that person is equivalent to the ones coming by boat, right? Like illegals coming by
Yeah.
boat.
I mean, it's so stupid
Hmm.
what's going on. This country is actually killing itself in the policies that it's adopting. The failure to enforce borders, the failure to ensure that only people who we want in this country are in this country, the failure to make sure that our culture isn't damaged by taking on other people, taking on such large numbers of other people that, frankly, almost irrespective of the policies we've got, it's incapable of any form of integration or assimilation taking place. And assimilation is vital. It's absolutely vital. A country can't survive if it doesn't have a settled culture,
Hmm.
a common understanding of where we came from, who we are, a common language, a common belief system, a common heritage. These are all fundamentally important things for a country to exist.
Yes, definitely. And do you feel like a lot of the issues that we have, not just because we have activist judges and spineless politicians and stuff, it's also because our foreign offices used to understand the country that they were, like sort of there for, right? Like like the foreign office of Pakistan in Pakistan would understand what Pakistan was, and what kind of people should we have or should we not have, know the languages and stuff like that. The staff over there would know the languages, and that goes for France or wherever, right? But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, because if that was the case, then our immigration policies would be very flexible, would be and would be very well informed. Like, these people who are coming from Pakistan, which part of Pakistan they're coming from, what kind of people they will bring with them and stuff. Do we want them or do we not want them? What kind of mentality is their national mentality is there in Pakistan? What are their views of, like, because they're
Yeah. I mean, there's
like
no
our
research being
extreme,
taken.
yeah, our
Yeah.
extremist is their normal guy, right? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah. No, I mean, we have done huge damage to the fabric of this country through our lack of control and lack of discernment of who we're letting into the country. It should be obvious to anyone that if you remove your borders and you let anyone come in, you will cease to exist
Hmm.
as a country. You will just cease to exist.
So how do you see, like, what should be our future relationship with Pakistan? How?
Well, I think we
Yeah.
should try and have a good relationship with the
Hmm.
government of Pakistan. I mean, one thing we should try and have a good relationship with every government of every country, because if we want to solve the issues we've
mm,
got, it'll be much easier to do it if the Pakistani government is on side. I mean, interestingly, you may know this, Momus, but there is a Pakistan prisoner transfer treaty
yeah,
that was signed
yeah,
between Pakistan and the United Kingdom in 2018.
mm,
And under this treaty, the United Kingdom has the right to deport to Pakistan any Pakistani criminals, any criminals in this country who are convicted, have Pakistani nationality,
mm,
whether they're dual or not, they can be deported to Pakistan. It hasn't once been invoked
yeah,
by the British government. It hasn't once been invoked. And the British government doesn't invoke it because it fears compromising the human rights of the criminals that would otherwise be
yeah,
deported to Pakistan. So we're putting the rights of criminals over and above and to the detriment of our own civil society.
mm,
And I raised this issue. I raised the rape gang issues with a Pakistani law enforcement officer, senior Pakistani law enforcement officer, about a year ago. And I interviewed him. I did a little
I
podcast
think
with
that
him.
was Dost Ali Baloch, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you know him.
yeah,
So he was Director General in the
mm,
Federal Bureau of
mm,
Investigation. Is it called the Federal? No, not the Federal. What do they call it in Pakistan? The
um,
uh, Pakistan Intelligence Agency, anyway.
yeah,
And whatever that, I can't remember the name of it now. And he told me that Pakistan would be delighted to take these
mm,
rapists back. But Pakistan can't reach into the
yeah,
United Kingdom and take them back. It needs the British government to call up the Pakistani
yeah,
government and say, please take these guys back. And we haven't done it. And so it's important to recognize that Pakistan is prepared to take these people back. And it's important to invoke that relationship
mm,
if it does solve problems in this country. What we've got to do is get our own legal framework into order so that we're not hijacked by the Human Rights
mm,
Act or the European Convention of Human Rights when we wish to deport a foreign criminal.
mm,
And there's no point in my mind denouncing the Pakistani government unless and until the Pakistani government refuses to do the right thing.
yeah,
Right now, we don't know what the Pakistani government's position is because we've never asked them to do anything.
exactly. We haven't even tried yet. So
We haven't tried
yeah.
yet, so we don't know.
And I do understand, like there's something that people raise as well, like the penalty of rape and pedophilia and stuff is pretty high in Pakistan, like it's usually death and stuff, but it's enough. But it gets confused by who actually gets convicted of rape and pedophilia. That bar is very different. Most of the people actually don't end up getting convicted for it because
No,
the standards of witness and stuff are very much, the law has been sharia
ridiculous
fied.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's been
yeah,
sharia fied for so long. It was based on the Pakistan penal code was based on the English common law to begin with. But since 1956, actually even before Bhutto, in 1956, I think so, the constitution of 1956, they put down an article 24, which basically meant call for Muslim unity in international policy. They wanted to go more towards the roots of Islam, and that's the descent of Pakistan. Very early on, it started that General Zia
the
came in, and
foundations were laid. Yeah,
yeah, because and then he said, okay, more and more close to Sharia law. So there is a conflict in Pakistan that usually happens whenever a case goes in. Pakistani penal code is fighting with the Sharia law all the time. But that's their
yeah.
business, I would say. Deport over there, let them do what they want to do.
I mean, look, the cost of keeping a prisoner in a British
Hmm,
prison, a criminal in a British prison, is about £55,000 a year, roughly, give or take.
ridiculous.
The cost of keeping the same prisoner in a Pakistani prison is about £3,000 a year.
Yeah,
So if you were to pay the Pakistani government, I don't know, £5,000 a year,
yeah,
they make good money. We'd save a hell of a lot of money. We'd get
yeah.
rid of a lot of criminal elements. It needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, we can create prisons over there. It will be cheaper for us to create prisons over there. You can
Absolutely.
have British standards over there, maintain your human rights over there, right? But just get them out from
I
here.
mean, just get them out of this country. I'm not too worried about the human rights of rapists.
Yeah.
You know,
Or what country have we become? It's like my wife, who's Polish, like I mentioned, like she finds it so bizarre. She was like,
It
this
is
would not
bizarre.
stand in Poland. Like, people would like basically beat the shit out of that person who had done it, and the police would turn a blind eye.
I mean, it's so interesting. Poland, I know Poland
Hmm.
reasonably well because I've done business there
Oh
since
yeah, yeah.
2005. And Poland has a massive border,
Hmm.
with Germany, with the Czech Republic, with Slovakia, but it has close to no illegal
Hmm.
migrant issues because they don't get given any support
Yeah.
or any succor.
Hmm.
Over here, we they're coming in hordes because we treat them like bloomin' kings and queens
Yeah.
when they come here, mostly kings because they're young single men mostly. And we just need to wake up to the threat that they're posing, not just economically, but literal physical threat to British society. We need to wake up to it. We need to start protecting ourselves.
Do you think just when it comes to making policies and stuff like that as well, I think so we how would we force the home office, or rather, do we need to abolish the home office itself, like, and create something new? But how do we force the home office? How do we enforce these policies within our foreign offices, where only the experts of those countries need to be there and give us proper information, and we base our
So there are
immigration
two,
policies?
I think there are two or three aspects to the restoration of our country. The first is making sure that our legal framework is correct.
Hmm.
So repealing all the acts of parliament which prohibit us from doing the right thing.
Hmm.
So the Equality Act, the Human Rights Act, amongst others, which have getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the entire regulatory
Hmm.
framework around it, which gives protection to ethnic minorities in a way that encourages the police not to
Hmm.
police them.
Yeah.
All of that is completely wrong. All of that has to go. And if we get rid of the Human Rights Act and the European Convention of Human Rights, we'll also then have the ability to enforce our borders. So that would give us the foundation by which we could restore our country. And then there's the human element that you've just mentioned, and that means we need a sea change of governance of people
Hmm.
in the civil service, in border force, um, in the police, so that they are trained and understand what their obligations are under the new laws, and we need then to then enforce the new laws. And this is all very capable. We're
Hmm.
very capable of doing it. It just requires the political will to do it.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So when to close the conversation around Pakistan as well, how do you envisage us to see us dealing with the negative elements of Pakistanis over here, who are probably second, third generation as well? How do we deal with that? Do you think it's wise to be able to allow people to call their families over here, especially families who like don't even speak English or want to speak English or whatever? Do you think it's wise to allow them to have ghettoization within UK, because it's becoming un-English
No,
sort of cities and stuff?
it's
How do we deal
extremely
with them going forward?
it's extremely unwise to allow ghettoization. Um, and that's what we've got. We've got multicultural silos living next to each other, often in conflict with each other. And that is the breakdown of society. It's not society, it's the breakdown. We don't have a multicultural society. We actually don't have a society. Society requires some kind of homogeneity in culture. And so the way you fix the problem, anyone who's got British citizenship, I think you can't really strip people of British citizenship. That's a very, very difficult thing to do because I think in the process of trying to address the problem, you become part of the problem because it's a draconian step.
Mm.
But anyone here on indefinite leave to remain who starts doing stuff that is antithetical to our values, um, Advance UK will have a covenant that people who live in this country but aren't British citizens would need to agree to. And that would include things like not advocating against our Christian constitution, not advocating for a complete breakdown of our society, not taking to the streets and advocating for violence against democratic allies of the United Kingdom, that kind of thing. And if you're here by permission, which is what indefinitely leave to remain is, then and you break this covenant, you will be deported. And we've got to be robust about that. So deport all illegal migrants, number one, deport all foreign criminals, deport anyone who's got dual nationality and has committed a crime in this country. Remove anyone from this country who's here on indefinite leave to remain and behaves in a way that's antithetical to this country. Um, and make sure that people who are coming here on work visas actually are fit for British society.
Hmm.
Um, reinstituting the checks that you were mentioning. Um, I mean, in the short term, there would have to be a complete moratorium on
Hmm.
immigration into the United Kingdom while we, get to grips with the problem. There would have to be a complete the shutters would have to come down completely on immigration while we get to grips with the problem. There's also an economic solution that we need to put into place at the same time. We need British people back in the workforce. We've got 8 million people on universal credit, 4 million of whom aren't actually even trying to work. They're claiming mental
Hmm.
health issues or physical disabilities. 4 million people. That is
Hmm.
unacceptable. That sort of um, benefit that allows them to stay at home and do nothing, that needs to be removed, and taxes need to be brought down on the working class so that there's an incentive to work. Remove the benefits that keep them in um, perpetually on benefits. Remove that comfort blanket and reduce taxes on working class people so that you get this 4 million people back into the workforce. That then makes it easier as well for the country to operate. Oh, as you deal with the immigration issues. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. But when it comes to people with dual citizenships, like you were saying, and we deport, like, not deport everyone with dual citizenships. I mean, like people who are, criminals, or like, are adverse to the British culture and society.
Behaving in an
Yeah,
adverse way, yeah.
exactly. So we would be revoking their British citizenship, though, right? Like when we deport them on the
Well,
basis of the other nationality.
if you deport them, you haven't stripped them of their nationality. I mean, I suspect I think if an advanced UK government came in, when an advanced UK government comes in, a lot of people will give up their other nationality.
Hmm.
Um, in fact, we haven't published our immigration policy yet, but one of our policies, I think, is going to be that you can't be a dual national.
Hmm.
If you want British citizenship, you've got to give
Yeah.
up your other nationalities.
Yeah.
You either commit to this country or you don't commit.
Hmm.
I heard Hamza Yusuf say the other day that I heard him say that he's distressed by the direction of travel this country's taken. He's going back to Pakistan.
Oh, good luck.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
but, British citizens on the whole don't have the option to go anywhere. This
Yeah.
is their home.
Yeah.
He's picking and choosing where he wants to live based
Exactly.
on how he feels,
Yeah.
which actually evidences that he doesn't feel British
Yeah.
because he should be prepared to stand and die in this country for this country. That's what
Yeah.
being British is. And he wants to go shuffle off to Pakistan. Um,
Yeah, but
but
obviously
people
he's
need
not,
to,
like,
yeah,
that's what people like that show anyways, right? Because he stood and said, like, he was a proud son of Pakistan when he was in Pakistan, and saying stuff like that. The reason why he's come into politics is because he's disturbed by so many white people in Scotland. So
I
you know,
know. I mean, that's an overtly racist position to take.
yeah,
He is a racist.
yeah.
He's a racist,
Hmm.
and no one's calling him out on it, and that is unacceptable.
Yeah, and this is why this is why I talk about the Pakistani element over here. It's not just the Pakistanis. That's why I say, because the Indians that are over here, they are on indefinite leave to remain because they can't get British citizenship. If they do, they'll have to give up the Indian nationality, Indian citizenship, because India doesn't allow dual nationalities, right? So we can't have people over here. We can have people over here who are not, like, who are not willing to die for Britain, right? They're here for economical reasons, they're here for, like, jobs or whatever, but we then can't make them citizens of this country. We
You've
always
got to
need to.
burn your bridges and commit
Yeah,
to the country.
exactly,
It's a
otherwise.
contract.
Yeah.
It's a contract. It's a privilege to be a British citizen, or at least
Hmm.
it used to be. It's a privilege to be a British citizen, and with it should come obligations.
Hmm.
Obligations to be prepared to defend your country, do the right thing by your country, stand by your country, stand by its values, celebrate its national heroes, celebrate
Hmm.
its religion, which is Christianity.
Yeah.
I don't want people saying, season's greetings. I want people saying Merry Christmas.
Yeah, no,
Call
I
it
get.
for what it is. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
What do you mean season's greetings? Why? Because it's miserable and cold and the sun sets early.
Yeah. On that note, on that note, would you? Because this is something I strongly believe in. Nobody should be swearing in Parliament on on other religions' holy
That's
books.
going
That
to,
needs to
that
end.
will be stopped. That will be stopped under an advanced UK
Yeah,
government.
it's either Bible or nothing.
It's either the Bible or an oath which is
Yeah,
non-religious. You
yeah.
cannot swear on the Quran or the any other holy book in we are constitutionally a Christian country.
Hmm. Hmm.
How the devil did we get to a position where they're swearing on different books
Yeah.
to get into parliament? Unacceptable. And if you don't want to swear on the Bible and you're not prepared to do a non-religious oath, don't stand for parliament.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah, because you're showing that when they are swearing on Quran or other things, it's quite a clear indication that that's what you're standing for. That's what you're representing.
Absolutely. And this is a Christian country.
Hmm.
It may not be an overtly fundamentalist Christian country that has Christianity running through every vein of government,
Hmm.
but it is constitutionally
Yeah.
and culturally a Christian country. And that must not change because all the values that you and I believe,
Hmm.
admire in the United Kingdom come essentially from its Christian
Yeah.
roots, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't want that to change. I
Yeah.
want it to go on being the United
Yeah.
Kingdom that I grew up
And we
in.
can see like the downfall in culture has started. The beginning of the downfall of culture within Britain and other Western countries is when people stop believing or stop
Yeah.
paying homage. You don't have to believe,
You've got to
explicitly
pay
believe in it.
respect.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
they stopped doing that, the culture started going down. Like this secular culture doesn't work without
No.
understanding its roots, and it basically
Well,
becomes
I
a
mean, I
rootless.
think a lot of politicians are now saying we're a multi-faith country. We're not a blooming multi-faith country. There are lots of people practicing different faiths, and no
Yeah.
one's going to persecute them for it, or prosecute or persecute
Hmm.
them for it. But this it doesn't change the fact that this is a Christian country.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. Um, Thank you so much, Ben, for coming on. If you would like to stay on for a little bit, I would like to do some silly questions, which are just
Okay.
for the paid
Sure.
subscribers, and they are silly,
Sure.
random, silly questions that we'll do.
Okay.
But for this segment of the podcast, thank you for coming on, and
Well,
I
thank
hope
you.
everyone, I hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you for having me on.